Now to the eating disorder that stems from too much of a good thing. It is called orthorexia. It happens when people are so concerned about eating healthy food, they wind up wasting away to nothing. We read about this unusual problem in Time magazine, and experts say it seems to be on the rise. Claire Shipman has a story of one woman whose pursuit of healthy eating nearly killed her.
Gonna get some lunch, Lexi? You hungry?
Yeah.
Lunch. 3 years ago, that word alone would have almost paralyzed Christy Rutzel.
I stayed away from restaurants. It took me maybe 2-3 hours to even figure out what my next meal was gonna be.
She was obsessed with healthy eating, going from vegetarian to vegan to a raw food diet, restricting more and more foods. She was so fixated, she almost killed herself, shrinking her 120-pound frame in half.
My parents told me that doctor came to them and said, you need to prepare for her funeral. We're going to get a chaplain up to the hospital for her.
They thought you were going to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this wasn't classic anorexia, Christy says. She says she suffered from something called orthorexia, an obsessive-compulsive disorder that creates severe phobias about eating unpure, unhealthy food.
For you, it was not about weight.
Not at all about weight. Just wanting my heart to be healthy, wanting my body to be healthy, wanting to make sure that everything I was putting in me was pure and good for myself.
It was a diagnosis she found online, and it's one lighting up message boards and blogs alike. While there's some movement toward orthorexia being a separate diagnosis, most experts still think it's part of anorexia. But they do see these symptoms of obsessing over healthy food on the rise.
Well, we don't really actually have any data on how common this presentation is, but we do know what we're seeing in the clinic. And often what we're seeing is people who are becoming more and more worried about what's actually in their food.
Christy says it was like a mental prison.
I think my lowest points were when I was afraid to hang out with people or afraid to have Christmas with my family. I mean, these times are supposed to be joyous and fun, caused me fear and made me just shut myself in my room.
And her doctors didn't seem to understand.
He's like, you're eating healthy, so just eat more of the good food that you're eating.
But she had an epiphany at rock bottom and forced herself back to a normal existence. There are no specific treatments for orthorexia, and those for anorexia weren't working, so she took charge of her own recovery.
For me, it was just step by step, just challenging myself, saying, I used to eat this and I used to love it. Why not do it again?
We're bombarded with pressure to eat healthy today, but experts aren't exactly sure that's why these symptoms are on the rise.
Well, one of the things that we think is that there might be an anxiety component to this. So people might feel that this is a way that they can control their anxiety.
Christy worries others are at risk because doctors really don't recognize these unique signs.
The hospital helped me gain weight, but they wouldn't deal with all of the issues that came with the orthorexia. And I'm afraid of this food and I don't want to get this disease.
At a certain point, you decided you couldn't actually have milk anymore.
Yep.
So you switched to only soy milk.
Yep. And then at one point I wanted to cut out all dairy.
Today, those fears are gone. She'll indulge in most anything.
Someone could buy it.
Chocolate
I had to
Cheerios.
try the new chocolate Cheerios.
Yes.
I mean, every girl loves chocolate.
Christy's become an evangelist about her counterintuitive message, especially with her soon-to-be stepkids, Alexis, Luke, and Liam. Too much healthy can be a bad thing.
My parents probably were planning my funeral. And here I am today giving people hope and telling them you don't have to suffer through that.
For Good Morning America, Claire Shipman, Richmond, Virginia.
Dr. Marie Savard joins us now with more on how eating healthy foods can become unhealthy. We really haven't heard much about this. What are the underlying issues here, Marie?
Well, I think I would say, Robin, first of all, this is probably an obsessive type of eating that we should take seriously and maybe do a little more research, learn more about it. But what seems to happen is it's not, they think that they're eating healthy, but in fact, these men and women, because actually young boys get this as well, are actually restricting their food so much that they're taking in very little, gradually lose weight, get malnourished, and even emaciated. They may think it's about being healthy, and as opposed to being thin.
Sure.
But a lot of experts really believe this is just a symptom of an underlying disorder, probably serious, something like an eating disorder or even obsessive compulsive disorder.
Because you think on the surface, healthy foods, fruits and vegetables, how can that be unhealthy? But it's all about balance. That's something you always are telling us.
It's true. If you're just eating fruit and vegetables, so for example, I mean, we know that we need a wider array of foods So, for example, a lot of these patients will eliminate the milk, the meat, and the dairy. And that has the complete protein that our bodies don't make by themselves. So you need those amino acids as the building blocks for your tissue. And the same with fatty acids as well. You need essential fats every day because that is an important component of your brain and spinal column. And you get that in seafood, grains, a wide mixture of foods. So it's the diversity of eating. I think this is more an obsession.
Yeah, because a lot of people like to think they're conscientious. You know, you always are telling them, read the labels, know what's going into your food, what's going into your body. But when do you know when you've crossed the line? What are some of the warning signs, maybe? There
are 5 warning signs. And I think the first is just if you see someone who's really worrying constantly about what they're eating, stressing out about it. Second is ritualistic eating. If they're eating the same food in the same way for the extended period of time. So you heard in the piece Christy took up to 2.5 hours to prepare. And then the third is if they're reading labels to a large degree. Yes, we all look at labels, but if you see someone really focusing on everything that they eat and looking at the label before they eat. Fourth is social isolation. That's really important. If you're no longer going out with your friends, not even doing holidays together. And then last is the weight loss and the nutritional deficiencies. That's something that could be a heads up too.
Got to look out for that. Marie, thanks so much for your insight. We do appreciate that. And you can find out more about orthorexia, it is called, on our website at abcnews.com.